So, for those that don't know, Marvel is releasing a new video game on December 1st called Cosmic Invasion. It's going to be one of those beat 'em up games, kind of like TMNT, Shredder's Revenge. Power Ranger one just recently came out. It looks pretty cool. I think it's going to retail for like $30 or something. But yes, this game is going to be inspired by several different comic book runs. The first of which is the Annihilation event from 2006. For those of you who don't know, Annihilation is the event where Annihilus, who rules over the negative zone, invades our universe, and all of the cosmic Marvel heroes have to try and stop him. You don't get much action from like the Earth heroes that you're typically used to from Marvel because they're all involved in the Civil War at this point. So you get like the Guardians of the Galaxy, Nova, Phyla-Vell, those types of heroes, and some villains as well. Like Ronan the Accuser is there. This is a quote directly from Marvel. They say the main inspiration for Marvel Cosmic Invasion is Annihilation from 2006. We like to think of the game as a 90s blockbuster adaptation of Annihilation. Ours is more action oriented and family friendly, while the original is more thoughtful and mature, but we're indebted to its grand sweeping storyline all the same. Some of the other runs that are involved in the inspiration are the Guardians of the Galaxy run from 2008, the Avengers from 98, Captain America from 98, the Dark Phoenix Saga 76. Also Jim Lee's X-Men from 91, and Spider-Man Unlimited from 93. Sensational She-Hulk 89. Get some Beta Ray Bill stuff from Thor circa like 83, and then Beta Ray Bill's own run from 2021, and finally Black Panthers from 2016. So today we are taking a look at the Annihilation run from 2006. It is a 6-issue miniseries. I'm not going to deep dive into the whole event, just looking at the primary limited series. Uh, Marvel always does like a crazy amount of tie-ins and stuff with their events uh, for this event. I haven't read all that stuff. Honestly, I never read Annihilation before I started to do this because I honestly never really liked Annihilus. Thought he was kind of a generic villain, but he has some really cool moments here, as well as some other villains. As I said, Thanos and Ronan have some really cool stuff going on, which once again is kind of odd because I didn't really like Thanos before the movies. Kind of changed his character up a bit. I never really liked the old school Thanos, but he was quite the badass in this one. In fact, I would say that theme is prevalent through most of this run, and just my personal taste in Marvel stuff. It's a lot of the stuff that I don't typically like, but it comes together and it makes a really cool story. And the first issue just jumps off with like a crazy war. The war's already started. I'm sure there's like prologue tie-ins or stuff, but like I said, I didn't get into that. So for me, it was just jumping in, which is definitely how I recommend like doing these types of stories because you're gonna be looking at this and you're gonna be like, who the hell's Phyla-Vell? Who's Terrax? Who's Ravenous? And just don't worry about it. Just jump in, and then when you jump into some other book later, you'll recognize a few of them, and you'll be like, oh yeah, yeah, because there's like over 8,000 unique characters in Marvel, so it's kind of just an unrealistic expectation to be caught up on everything you need to be caught up on before jumping into an event like this. The first issue was like super reminiscent of like the original Terminator movie. When it starts out, you're just thrown into the war. Like it does give you exposition about it, but it's all after the fact. You know, when it starts out, it's just like robots stepping on human skulls and just crazy stuff like that. So it's kind of similar to that, where everything's just popping off, and you pretty much have Nova and Star Lord running the show. For the Resistance, they are just leading the charge against the incoming, what they call the Annihilation Wave. And the whole premise for the invasion is that, you know, our universe, which is constantly expanding, is actually pushing into what's called the negative zone in Marvel. And Alice has decided to invade our universe to reclaim what he feels he has lost due to our expansion. You get some really cool action out of it. You get a bunch of like former heralds of Galactus all like in the orbit of a planet defending it because the Annihilation guys, I don't really know what you call them, all of his soldiers they basically just nuke planets from orbit, and they're not doing like their typical warfare. And so a bunch of the heroes of Galactus team up and defend the planet from orbit so that a ground war can actually be fought. And it makes for some pretty cool stuff. They reveal the stakes, all that stuff, and then I guess the risk or the reality of the situation comes to a head at the end when you find out that the entire battle on this planet was a huge distraction that Thanos had put together because he has aligned himself with Annihilus in this story. And he takes all these players off the board so that he can rally these ancient beings to take on and then defeat Galactus and the Silver Surfer, which is a super absurd statement to make, but they do succeed. At the end of the issue, Galactus and the Silver Surfer are both, they're not dead, but they are defeated and captured. Frankly, I'd love to see a diagram of like how exactly you're going to capture Galactus. Some cool stuff happens in issue 2. Thanos actually kidnaps Moonstone and rips off one of her ears to send to Drax, like as a message. And Moonstone is actually the daughter of Drax. So him sending the ear is kind of like telling him, stay away, I have your daughter, don't come and try and kill me, or I'll kill her. But what he doesn't know is Drax cares much more about killing Thanos than he does his own daughter. Also in this issue, Thanos decides to share his teleportation tech with Annihilus, which turns the tide of the war in a huge way. And he actually has Galactus and Silver Surfer in custody. Dude, Ronan really shines in the first issue with him trying to rally the Kree against the Annihilation Wave because the Kree are under this rule of this like merchant guild called the House of Fierro, and he's just not having it because they're all getting killed, and they're basically doing like old school German tactics of just standing and fighting until you're dead so that the rich people can get away. He's such a cool soldier and stuff, and it kind of makes you like him a bit. And then in the second issue, you immediately realize why you didn't like him before, because he's like a crazy xenophobe. Um, and he kills a bunch of the representatives for the House of Fierro, which was a pretty cool move. And then he immediately walks outside, and they see like the Super Skrull's corpse in a coffin, and he just spits on it. And it's like, all right, dude. And I mean, Super Skrull stuff saying either, but when you're gonna spit on the corpse specifically because of the race, it's like, okay, you're that kind of bad guy. Got it. And then the climax of the second issue is like the big final battle at the end. And it really showcases the way a lot of these battles take place in Marvel, because it's not just like, oh, here's 3 people versus 5 people or whatever, which is the way it goes in the movies a lot. It starts with a few people on each side, and then through the teleportation tech, like more comes in and things shift. The heralds come down from orbit. It's a whole thing. And then in the third issue, Thanos actually turns Galactus into a weapon, having him feed on planets that he chooses, which is obviously the planet where the final battle is. So you basically like this big Galactus beam just shooting into the planet like Man of Steel style, except way better. And a lot of the heralds kind of like team up and get in the way of the beam to sacrifice themselves for the evacuation, which is really cool. And then, in a very strange turn of events, Ronan, the Super Skrull, and Paxagora actually team up to take on the House of Fear, because the Kree are like the biggest military force on the Resistance, and they're not fighting correctly because of this House of Fierro. So Ronan's going to go take them out so that they can actually utilize their forces. So it's a pretty cool little ragtag group. You get Ronan, Super Skrull, and Paxagora all together. And then in issue 4, Drax goes on this whole odyssey to get to Thanos, because he's completely ignoring the whole warning about his daughter and everything. He's like, I was created for one thing only, and that's to kill Thanos. I'm the only one that can kill Thanos. And then you find out that Thanos actually has Galactus's imprisonment tied to his own power signature, so he's the only one who can free Galactus. Galactus is the only one who can defeat Annihilus, supposedly. So Thanos is, by proxy, ensuring his own survival. But what he didn't take into account was the fact that Drax doesn't care about that at all, and Drax actually kills Thanos. It was really cool. Arguably, it was cooler than Thor chopping off his head in Endgame. He just punched a hole through and grabbed his heart. Kali Ma style. If that's how you say that. Probably not. In the 5th issue, you get Moonstone and Drax freeing the Silver Surfer, and then by extension, the Silver Surfer freeing Galactus, which is pretty cool. And then across the galaxy, Ronan, Super Skrull, and Pax Agora defeat the House of Fierro and Ravenous, freeing the Kree from their rule. And then Ronan takes control of the Kree Empire, and Mercy kills the Supreme Intelligence. So you find out that they have the Supreme Intelligence kind of like brain dead but still alive. I guess it would be the equivalent of being like on a feeding tube. And he finds it dishonorable, so he mercy kills it. And then in the final issue, you pretty much have 2 major cool moments. First of which is Galactus unleashing like a rage-fueled explosion. He calls to the Surfer. He says, "Surfer, herald my rage." And I don't know how you would actually measure the explosion, but at one point in the communications between the Annihilation wave, they say we are down to 46% forces, and that the explosion has consumed 3 solar systems and shows no sign of slowing. And then later, I think he drops on like 20 or 30%. So I would say it's safe to say that this explosion consumed roughly 5 solar systems. That's my head canon on the matter, at least. And that's the meat and potatoes of the Annihilation event from 2006. Now, usually I do like more deep dives, but I was kind of just wanting to do broad strokes on this one because we'll be doing a limited series of my own with all of these comic book runs that are inspiration for the Cosmic Invasion video game. Can't wait to play the game myself. Let me know what you guys think. Are you excited for Cosmic Invasion? Are you going to be sticking to Marvel Rivals? Or are you stuck on Battlefield 6?